Okay, just a real quick follow-up. I just want to show you guys, it is 2023, November 5th, and this is a 1995 Peavey CyberBass. And I don't think I made it super clear in the video. This cable is original, and I don't know if you can get replacements for these. It's got this really interesting design where it has like this slider and it slides in with the arrows being aligned. You can see the yellow there. Got it aligned. And basically it just slides right in, and then to unclip it, you squeeze the sleeve down and pull it out really slowly, and you can see it's this special connector. It's not a regular MIDI. This is very unique to this bass. You need this cable fully functioning for it to work. I think these are also hard to find. And then I did mention, the power supply says made in China. I think the power supply is the only part of this setup that is not original. The Peavey module is Peavey Electronics, made in USA. This is the original Peavey CyberBass. I showed you guys the front. If you can see it, it shows the required power needed. This power supply does that, 1100 milliamps, so a little over, that's fine. All right, and then real quick, if I can get to the back, see on the top here, Peavey. Again, this is a rack mount. I just don't have it rack mounted. I actually have it velcroed to the power strip, and it actually fits all in this gator case really nicely. That's how I was traveling with it. You can see the front just shows CyberBass, and on the front again has the port for the original cable, and there is a remote. Does that say remote switch? I've never had a remote switch, and I've never tried using one, considering I have all of these remote switches, and there are switches on the bass. I also didn't discuss that clearly, but when I was showing you how I was able to transpose octaves in the previous video, I was flicking this, and you can actually see when this is plugged in, and you're flicking the switch, the LCD shows you what you're transposing it to, up an octave, down an octave, down 2 octaves. I think it goes plus or minus 2 octaves. And it has a bunch of other features like that. You can go through the manual. The manual does not come with this bass, but I've always referred to the one online. If you just Google search Peavey CyberBass manual, there's actually a PDF link to the 5-string version, but that's exactly the same to this bass, the way you set it up and everything. And it's also, this setup here is unique to my setup. I remember when I first got it, it wasn't tracking very well, and I had to go and read the manual and figure out exactly how to set it up in the monophonic version, and I forget, this was years ago, but again, read through the manual. It explains everything pretty clearly in there. As far as maintenance goes, you can see it's mint. There's literally no dings anywhere. And I use this thing, I just take care of it. It comes with a hard shell case, the original one. It's covered in shitty stickers from the previous owner. I apologize, but the inside of the case is good. And I also didn't really point out the back too. This whole black plate here behind it, when you remove these screws, which are really easy to remove, they're just basic Phillips heads. There's basically a whole computer in there. I mean, technically this is like a hollow body base. That whole space is a motherboard with a lot of circuitry. The only reason you open it up is to change out the 9-volt battery. It is active, of course. So it does take a 9-volt, and it's super easy to replace. I do have pictures of the plate off if anybody is curious, and you want to see the brains inside this machine. Just let me know. I can shoot me a DM or something. I'll send you some pictures. I'm also going to have this posted on Reverb, although I don't know how many pictures they'll allow. I may post some stuff on Reddit just to get some more exposure on it and get some more pictures out there. This is the truss rod adjuster. I've never adjusted the truss rod. The action is fine for me. I mean, it's not amazing, but it doesn't buzz, and the action's a little high up here, but it's not too bad. It's honestly it plays decently considering it at its core. The bass itself, as I said, the quality of it isn't great. It is a cheap Peavey bass. For what they were selling it for, and for all the amount of electrical components that are in here, they probably didn't make any money on these things, especially since I don't think they were very popular at the time. Because I don't think anybody knew what to do with it. It looks like there is some light scratches here on the back, but I'm shooting this with a brand new iPhone 15 Pro, so you should be able to see good high resolution. Yeah, it's just that one scratch. That's unfortunate. This bass was in storage since 2020. I moved from California to the East Coast, and it took me a while to get my hands back onto it, but I just recently got it a few months ago. But it held up in storage just fine. There's zero corrosion. Everything is super clean. The front top looks awesome. All the hardware, nothing's stripped. Oh, and going back to these, so they're not just tone dials also. You can assign MIDI learn functions to the twisty knob. Again, I use the pedals, but if you wanted to go with, something a little bit more simpler, and you just had, one parameter that you wanted to adjust while you're playing with your fingers down here, that's another way you could do it. And shit, I told you guys it's gonna be a short video, but turns out it's not, because I also wanted to explain a little further. This board, I didn't really discuss what's happening underneath. You can see there is a lot of wires coming out from underneath. The red one is the main MIDI cable that goes directly to the Focusrite. The gray is the USB to the Focusrite. Basically, this is a bundle of USBs. Some are free and ready for, I used to have other accessories hooked up to this board, I had a drum machine hooked up, Right now I'm using this Novation launch control. I also had a APC 40 at one point. Again, it's kind of set up for if you got a powerful enough computer. I love these Mac Minis. I mean, I was literally running like all those controllers off this Focusrite, the Mac Mini, and everything. It just runs great. So you can run a bunch of stuff off of all of this. And so under the board, what we have is a couple devices. One is the MIDI Expression 4. That's what allows these are TRS cables, and they go up here under the board, all of this, and they plug into the MIDI expression. And what the MIDI expression does is it changes the CV input to MIDI input and sends the MIDI input to via USB to the computer. So that's actually a separate USB cable. See if it says, well, or maybe I pulled it out when I was, oh yeah, this is it, yeah. So this is specifically for the USB 4. For some reason, this is the only cable that doesn't like my USB hub. It really only works if I plug it directly into the computer. I haven't updated the firmware on this one, so I do have that downloaded, so I will be trying that later, updating the firmware. Maybe that'll fix that problem. Maybe that's just a old school issue that they had flushed out. Anyway, going back to under the board, so you have that. There's also a MIDI splitter. So we have one MIDI signal from the CyberBass, that black cable, and you can see that is in the MIDI out slot. So that MIDI out goes into a box that's under here. That box, basically that MIDI out goes into a MIDI in on the box, and on the other side of the box there's two MIDI outs, and one of those MIDI outs goes to the Moog, which you can see here, this cable right here, and then the other MIDI out is the red cable going to the Focusrite. So that way I have that MIDI signal split. So it's literally, I can actually run them independently or simultaneously. So I can have the Moog and whatever sounds I'm playing off of my whatever virtual synth I have going on Ableton. I can have those going both at the same time if both of the channels are on Ableton with that MIDI splitter. So it's pretty cool. It can give you a really cool, really fat live sound, adding the Moog on top of the virtual synth. But the virtual synths, they're so crazy. You can get the fattest sounds out of them and layer the hell out of those. So I usually like to just play this one solo, just because I think it sounds nice. I mean, no knock on the virtual synths, but analog's king for a reason. It definitely has that sound. And everything is going through these KRKs. These are KRK5 G4s. Yeah, I used to have a fatter KRK setup back in California, but now I got these little babies, but they sound alright. They got some good bass to them. So that's basically what's happening under the board is USB splitter, or I'm sorry, MIDI splitter, the CV converter to USB, and there is a giant USB hub under here. It's about the size of this. I want to say it's like actually it's bigger than this one. It's like a 8 or a 12 port. There's more empty slots down there in case I decide to reconfigure this. I actually have rack mounts for the Moog. I've always envisioned this in a 10 rack setup, keeping Not sure if I'd keep this or go for a rack mounted preamp, but either way, rack mount this, rack mount the Peavey, have the computer and the Focusrite on like a tray, and I don't know, but this served me well with both the laptop setup and the Mac Mini. And right now I'm not in the mood to change the whole setup because it's been working really great for almost a decade. I think I started putting this thing together in 2014. And to close out this video, I can't show it right now, but again, this is another thing I can send pictures of. Cleaning and maintenance, you have to use the correct strings. They have to be nickel wound. I always use Ernie Ball Super Slinkies. I'm not sure if I'm correct on the nickel wound, but whatever the Super Slinkies is, that material is the correct one to get MIDI tracking on this bass. You can see the frets are slotted. That's special for the MIDI tracking. And these frets do tarnish, so you have to polish them, but you can't damage this. You can see there's like a black coating on the fretboard. And I'm sure this was available back in 1995, but it's not now. But it basically was like a template that you could put in here, and it protects the frets, and you could clean these frets with the appropriate material. It's this 3M non-abrasive. Basically, I made my own. I made it out of a giant vinyl desktop mat and an X-Acto blade, and 3 hours of me cussing. And I had traced out this whole fretboard, and I cut out the vinyl template, and it lines up perfectly, and I'm able to protect the frets and correctly clean the frets and the strings. You want to make sure that there's no any sort of buildup, tarnish, hairs, pet hair, anything like that gets in the way of direct contact to the frets and the strings can give you a false note or improper tracking. But I've found it's pretty robust. I actually have 2 cats. There's one of them. And I clean this thing when I'm using it, when it's not in storage, honestly once every 2 months, and it tracks great. Again, it really plays better when I'm trying to play better because it is a very sensitive bass. All that being said, hopefully the new owner can take care of it as well as I have. Peace.